Hey, good morning, everybody. Josh Fielkley here for GAI Insights, bringing you the top news, essential, important, or optional, filling your head with thoughts and putting time in your day, we hope. Anyway, we've got Vivek Mukhyar. Hello, Vivek. Great to have you from Pfizer, Luda, Ankaj, and Adam. Okay, we have a bunch of articles today, everything from Claude and its ability to take the world by storm through and also ending with Claude in terms of Reptile and what they're doing for their agentic code review. All right, Akash, if you take us to the first article, please.
So thanks, John. So the first one that we have for today comes from the Wall Street Journal, and it talks about how Claude is taking the AI world by storm, and even non-nerds are blown away.
All right, what do you think here, Vivek?
Yeah, I think this article an important. I think I've felt this exact same thing over the last few months, especially when Cloud Opus came out. What was unthinkable a year ago, especially for a non-coder like myself, and I think this is exactly talking about these type of folks who started then developing apps over Christmas, and they were just incredibly polished and well thought out. So as this new transition is a step function change in how software is developed, even for non-coders and simple business folks. But it's not even about software. It's just engaging with your entire workflows that you normally do. And I think having Claude Opus and this model is just going to accelerate Win's work even more, and it's may make it much more accessible to use Gen AI for Win's work than it has ever been. So I think all ideas now become reality, and I think this is where, but this is where I think this is a big step change that AI leaders need to understand. I just didn't want to give it an essential because this doesn't. The only way to understand the magic is by actually doing it, and this doesn't force folks to. It doesn't have that call to action within this article, but otherwise, it's an important read that this is a seismic change in what's going on in the Gen AI world.
Yeah, interesting. Paul's trying to join us from the train going out to Davos. I know he's landed over in Switzerland. Adam, what do you think?
I am 100% in alignment with Vivek. The thing that kept me from calling this essential was that it didn't have enough of that call to action. It didn't have enough of the clarity around actually telling people what you have to do to actually go this week and put your hands on one of these tools and learn for yourself what's possible, because that's the only way to do it. This topic itself and this news are absolutely probably the most essential thing as the headline as we start 2026. But this article itself is an important read.
All righty, Luda.
Absolutely essential. Essential. This is, as Vivek, you said, and Adam, you agree, it's a step change. Claude has done it with a number of things that they put in their coding environment. Now it's for everyone. So the leaders have to know that this is happening. And I think they're pretty smart. If this is a step change and we're recommending it, they will start really experimenting with it, I hope. So I feel it's essential news. And it's Wall Street Journal. Look, Wall Street Journal is a very broad distribution, and I think they've grabbed on these news, and I think it's essential.
All righty. What do you think, Akash?
Essential for me as well, John. I think Pat Grady from Sequa mentioned it really well in his article last week, right? So 3 changes. One is the ChatGPT moment when it happened, then the reasoning engines, now this agent harness layer around these models, which is Claude Code. So essential read for any AI leader.
Well, I originally had it as important, as did Adam in the pregame, but you guys have convinced me. Look, it's a Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal. It's got big distribution. Yeah, let's give it an essential. All right, next.
Okay, the next one that we have for today comes from Black Forest Labs, and it's about Flux to Client towards interactive visual intelligence.
What do you think here, Adam?
Yeah, so I'll say this is optional news. It's incremental, but in many ways an everyday miracle. So Flux is the name of the models from Black Forest Labs. Actually, X before they started using Grok were even using Flux through the API, and a lot of people like it. They've come out with some serious high-level pro models, and this latest entry is Klein, which means the little one, and this one is little but very powerful and very fast. And one of the key capabilities is that it can generate and edit the images, sort of like Nano Banana Pro can. I'm not sure to what extent. I haven't tested it yet, but the fact that there's a very fast model, like on the order of seconds, that can do these kinds of capabilities is a great step forward, but it's an incremental one. So probably optional news.
All right, we get an optional here. Akash, what do you think?
Optional news, John. I think like we have the agent harness for Claude Code now, we need a harness for video models as well, and we will see a really fast pickup of these models as well. So they won't be optional, but we need that harness around these models.
All right, Vivek.
Yeah, let me make a case for important. This, I believe, is sort of the new trend in the image model world. So, we talked a lot about small language models last year and the importance that they will have as we, kind of scale and unlock new use cases that require low latency. Now we're going towards small image models. And this, especially high quality, Nano Banana is a quite expensive model. When I try to implement that in production, relatively speaking, this is open source, open weights, and it allows for these new use cases, right? Like you think about AR, VR, where you need instantaneous sub-second responses, being able to analyze images at that speed. I think it will unlock all new use cases. So from an AI leader's perspective, it's for them to be able to understand where the frontier is and this new evolving model architecture that will enable new use cases for them. So that's where I was important.
All right, we got important there. Luda, what do you think?
I was between optional and important and ended on optional. I agree with Vivek totally that this is a trend to watch. The capabilities are maturing. And I was really blown away with the real-time adjustment of images. For the enterprises, that means that you can engage the audience much, much better because you could just show different things in real time, depending on what you're hearing from the customer. But this is not the article and not the type of thing that you would put this trend forward for AI leaders. So I was optional on this one, even though it's a great capability.
Yeah, that's where I came out. It was an unbelievable capability. The thing that, Vivek, when you're saying about how it's, open weights, that's a big deal, I think, in this, as you get to it, an open model. But I'm going to have to give it an optional. All right, Everyday Miracles. Next.
Okay, the next one comes from A16Z, and it talks about the palantirization of everything.
The palantirization of everything. All right. Yes, I love how what's old enough is new again. I mean, this is what Thomas Watson Jr. did when he made IBM go from a device company to a power software and services powerhouse. Anyway, what do you think here, Luda?
Yeah, I can't even say palantir properly. A palantirization is like beyond, right? So this article is very interesting. I rated it optional because it's really focused with advice for founders. It talks about the company Palantir that focused on defense, intelligence, security, very tough markets, and pioneered the forward deployed engineers, FDEs. So their model was they would deploy very broad base, but very intelligent engineers at company site who will wire all the data and applications together and be able to deliver on the customer promise. This article talks about why it was successful and how people are trying to duplicate the model right now might not be successful because they're tripping over certain things. The main thing that founders need to be aware of, that Palantir built a platform, they built a product that that contains many services that essentially are canned things, and they did it how they felt they should be done, changing the flows of the customer. And so this is very hard to do. And if you don't do it right, what happens? You will have engineers all over the place, and it's hard to scale. But I rated it optional.
All right, good. Optional here. What do you think, Vivek?
Yeah, for all the reasons that Luda mentioned, I was actually important, right? Because a lot of investments will go into building this type of model internally for a lot of organizations without understanding that you need deep product, deep domain expertise, and they'll deploy this model with engineers who don't have both of those capabilities and will actually fail. So I think this is a good warning sign that that model is not appropriate for every situation, and you need a very highly specialized. And we know that within even organizations, even within large consulting firms, the level of AI fluency, especially Gen AI fluency, is pretty low. And we're going towards a model of more integration. So we need to build that integration muscle. Is this the right path forward for that? I think it is a good warning sign for most AI leaders. So that's always more important.
All right, Adam.
Yeah, I'm with Vivek. I think this is a cautionary tale, and as much as the don'ts are good thought leadership, looking at some of the do's and enterprise leaders recognizing that those aren't the scenarios that align with their business models will make them decide not to perhaps adopt this approach rather than getting caught up in the wave. So I think this provided great thought leadership, both in terms of pragmatic ways to approach it, as well as when it isn't the right way forward. So I think this, a discerning AI leader could get value from it more so than I think this is promoting the concept of FDE more broadly.
I got you.
I was optional on this one, John. I originally thought that this FTE model is just promoted by Silicon Valley startups just to promote their fluff and stuff. But hearing Vivek, I think this can be an important cautionary tale for leaders who are thinking of implementing these systems themselves. I can go for important.
That's interesting. I had this as super optional, and the thing that came to mind for me was the ridiculous notion of nation building in Iraq. That the problem with the Iraq strategy is it didn't even look at the history of how our nation was built, which is basically we come in and we slaughter the native people, we take their land, we bring in slaves, and we give, voting to one class of people. And yeah, you can put out, and then Washington fought a number of rebellions for 10 years. So when we're doing Iraq building, the problem was our concept of how the U.S. was built was completely wrong. And you think about Palantir. Palantir's been in business since 2003. If you bought their stock at the IPO back, in 2021, you would have been underwater while the S&P was going like this and the Magnificent Seven were going like this. You would have been underwater for 3.5 years. So we're sitting here now 23 years into their journey and saying, I'm going to go do that as a startup. And by the way, as I understand it, they just got super close to the intelligence agency. And, basically they were like Oracle many years before, where Ellison built Oracle on the back of the CIA. These guys built the basis of this in the back of the CIA, who's an uneconomic buyer. They're buying for a different reason. So, it's just I think this is as ridiculous as the, stuff about nation building in Iraq was when you talk about this representing a startup, because and this article does nothing about the history that tells a founder anything that's anything like relevant. So this to me is triple optional. So sorry, guys and gals, I'm going optional.
Yeah, I agree with you. This unfortunately doesn't transfer the knowledge from advice to founders to AI leaders. If it did it somewhere, that I would have considered important, but it doesn't. It really focuses on founders, and yeah.
You know any VCs that want to wait 20 years? Come on, give me a break. Anyway, next.
Ankash, you must be on mute.
Here we go. Let me do it. How Palo Alto networks.
Yeah, why don't you?
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna go. Let me show this guy here. Okay, just a second. I think Ankash maybe having some technical issues. Here we are. Okay, here we have Palo Alto networks.
John, should we move to the next one?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Okay, the next one comes from AWS, and it talks about how Palo Alto Networks enhanced device security infra log analysis with Amazon Bedrock.
All right. Yeah. I mean, 200 million alerts. I mean, let's talk about at scale. What do you think here, Vivek? And excuse me, for those of you who don't know, Vivek's in charge of medical affairs, right? At
yes, medical affairs.
At Pfizer. Yeah. And so that's, I imagine you just there are a lot of things in medical affairs, at least certain parts of your organization. They may not have hundreds of millions like this do, but you get a lot, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And so there's a function within medical affairs called medical information, where we get a lot of queries from healthcare professionals asking questions about our products, and they need to be sort of triaged appropriately depending on the complexity of those queries as well. So this was excellent use case again in AWS fashion. They use Amazon Bedrock to qualify, classify, and prioritize 200 million plus daily logs. And this is just another fantastic example. It's showing production grade implementation. And now it's not even at that level. Now we're going for creating architectural designs and systems designs that are optimizing for both efficiency and scale. And they found that there were 95% precision in identifying production issues, 83% faster incidence time, and then with their caching, they were having over 99% logs cached, so that reduces costs and improves efficiency. So
yeah,
and it has all the components of a good AWS case study, and sort of important to essential, more leaning towards essential.
Okay, got an important head for essential. What do you think here, Ankash?
Then I was essential on this one. I think it has all the components of a great AWS case studies, and they are tackling a problem which is really complex. So for that reason, essential for me.
All right, Adam, where are you on this?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't see myself. I'm not sure if my camera's off, but I don't see it.
You are frozen a little bit, but go.
I can hear you.
I was important on this one. I thought it was a great use case, as Vivek said. It's got all of the components, and but I'm not sure I'd go essential. It's a lot of people aren't necessarily going to be doing this sort of thing with their solutions. So it's deep. It's a great use case. We definitely want to flag it, but I'm not sure it's an essential read.
All right. And Luna, what do you think?
I was going essential. I think log processing, incident processing is pretty much it can be not as much as 200 million, but it still exists in most companies. So I was particularly interested in the applications of really not AI processes here in the combination. So it's smart. So they actually looked at finding duplicates and caching the ones that they see very common. And that gave them one of the biggest bangs for the buck. So, and then they did the context retrieval and the like. That was AI. So it's a combination of things. And I'm sure AI leaders are looking at that. But caching and duplication and all of those simple things you could do and get a bang for the buck, I thought this was also a pretty good part of this case. So I thought essential.
I'm so conflicted. Essential, important, essential. I think I'm gonna go for essential. Yeah, I mean, look, it's boring as can be, right? A couple of years ago, I wrote an article with a friend of mine, Jamie Yoder, who's a senior guy at Accenture now, and one of the points we made about AI is that you can use it to pick up the trash and look at the stars, right? So you can do the really simple stuff that's too voluminous to automate, or two unstructured, and then you can also do amazing new things at the high end. So it's a weird, if you think it's both ends of distribution, right? Really low grade knowledge work and really high grade knowledge work. And this one's on the low grade, but man, as you say, Luda, everybody's got this problem, right? And the other thing that's interesting, Luda, is that the notion of log analysis, and in a weird way, I think the article on Google's internal RL is kind of a log analysis turned sideways, if you will. You know what I mean? It's because you're monitoring behavior in real time using policy to sort and implement. Anyway, so I'm talking myself into essential. All right, essential it is. Sorry, Adam. It's too bad Adam didn't freeze on a happier face. All right. Akash, next, please.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the next one. This one comes from VentureBeat, and it talks about how Google's internal RL could unlock long horizon AI agents.
Yeah, what'd you think, Akash? I was all over the place on this.
Yes, John, same sort of reaction from me as well. So what Google is suggesting here is that our typical large language models, they are trained on text data and they think one token at a time. So when they are working with problems which are multi-step, even small token level changes, they can impact the entire process, and the odds of success in that case are 1 in a million. So what Google is suggesting is that instead of training these models on textual data, we should train them on the next best action in a sequence of actions. And instead of outputting words, it outputs actions. And they are suggesting that we add a meta controller in that training exercise, which sort of activates hidden mental states of the model. It is better compared to the current training of the models because because this meta controller, it can activate select hidden layers of the model and help the model identify that, okay, this is the next best action in a long list of actions compared to the textual trained model. So it sort of reduces the number of choices that the model needs to make when it's doing a kind of agentic work. So it's a good approach, I would say. We saw something similar, I think, 8 to 10 months back when Rabbit launched their large action model. The concept was similar. They were doing it slightly differently, but it hasn't worked really well for them. And this has worked on a few of the benchmarks, but still remains to be seen how it performs in real world conditions. So interesting concept, but I would say till the time they are able to put it in practice in one of their tools or show more success with it, still an optional read for the AI leader.
Yeah, so super important area, optional read. What do you think, Vivek?
Yeah, I was channeling my Paul. Then how does this apply to an AI leader yet right now? But that said, I think it highlights how Google continues to lead in the research race, and this is just fascinating work, and that got me sort of towards the important from an AI leader perspective. If they're trying to make a decision between OpenAI or GCP and Google or Anthropic, this is worth just keeping in the back pocket as something to highlight that Google is going to continue to just innovate and lead the pack.
Yeah, so interesting. I mean, the theories of mind and so forth. This seems to be the evolution of metacognition in the context of cognition. If we want to anthropomorphize these things, you know what I mean, and different levels of abstraction. Yeah, I tell you, Luda.
Optional for me. I don't think this is usable. It's not even not yet. It's a great concept. I'm not sure. This is very much out of league for VentureBeat to take that technical thing and try to put it into broad audience. They must have ran out of things to talk about.
Hello.
I mean, seriously. But there's one thing that technically they say, I haven't looked at the technical papers to confirm it, but this is a very big red flag. And that is, if the model is not frozen in context, you can't use this mechanism. So in other words, for the real-time evolving models, this doesn't work yet. So they haven't quite figured it out. And think about an AI leader. What are they going to do with this? This is half cooked yet. Good advance. If it were to work, this is wonderful, but it's not. So I would, my inner Paul would say triple optional.
Love it. All right, Adam. I know in the pregame you and I had this as optional.
Yeah, no, it is super interesting and triple optional.
Yes.
I would definitely agree. Luda, I didn't even realize this was VentureBeat, to your point.
Right.
As you just said that, I had to go back and check because, yeah, it almost reads more like an archive research paper than something you'd find on VentureBeat. But yeah, optional for our leader until, as you said, John, they prove things out a bit more.
All righty. Super important topic. Keep an eye on optional in this article. All right, next, we'll run out of time. Ankaj, last, please.
Okay, the last one is a customer story from Claude, and it talks about how Greptal builds truly agentic code review with Claude Agent SDK.
I love it. Greptal. Whoever names these things, do they sit around and get high when they do this stuff? It's like, hey, man, let's go Greptal. It's like, come on. Anyway, let's see what you think you're at.
Well, for people who do some sort of coding or programming, they'll know that grep is a search command. So
Yes.
Greptile is actually a pretty clever name. I have to give him credit for that.
Fair
But
enough.
look, I gave this important. We've seen some use cases out of Claude that have left us disappointed a little bit, and I think this one met my expectations. It had some good statistics associated with it. It got deep enough to provide some value. But just to sort of summarize this company, Greptile, really the story here is that they made a wrapper around Claude Code using the Agent SDK, but we haven't seen a lot of use cases that talk about using the Agent SDK, and it highlights one of the big cost benefits, also performance gains you can get with caching. If done intelligently, which they did, to in some cases reduce by 90% the amount of calls that need to be made, which is a significant thing. So I think if anyone's looking at agentic systems and they're looking at the Agent SDK, this is going to be a valuable piece to give them some real thought leadership around how something like this can be built.
Gotcha. All right. Akash, what do you think here?
But I agree with Adam, John. I think it's an important read because it's the first time we have seen the usage of either of these SDKs, whether it's OpenAI's SDK or Claude's SDK. So important read.
And what do you think of that?
Yeah, I was between an optional and an important. It's all the value is going to be in the orchestration layer, and Claude's doing a great job at getting there, especially with context management. All of these are going to be important trends to watch out in 2026. So it's a good start to the year to learn about what's going on.
All right. And Luna.
Agree with important. This is super complex, and they have caught a problem with NVIDIA built, and I was really blown away that they did this. So it seems like it's working, and it's worth for AI leaders to know about it.
Yeah, I had it as important as well. All right, important it is. Yeah, I think this tooling anyway is going to be I think the last two articles, the notion of creating new intermediate expressions and expressions of intelligence that improve performance, and then this kind of tooling are going to be critical things as we, build out higher and higher levels of intelligence. Okay, and in terms of announcements, let me just announce my co-founder Paul is over at Davos. He's going to be representing us there at the Imagination and Action event. And among other things, he's going to be interviewing the CIO of Goldman Sachs. Marco, I forget his last name, but anyway, it should be interesting. And we're hoping to get great video back from Paul in terms of what's happening in Davos. All right. Any other announcements? Vivek, anything big at Pfizer? You guys got a new drug coming out or something? It's gonna. You let us know so we go trade the stock. No, okay.
No news, John.
No news. Okay. We have two essentials today. We've got Claude and then Palo Alto Networks doing a great use case. The rest optional, except for important reptile. Global representative something print, right? The P is print. Anyway, okay. There we have it. Have a great AI day. See you all tomorrow. Take care, everybody. And happy MLK Day, of course. Martin Luther King.
Thanks, David, for joining. And thanks all of the folks who are commenting. Really appreciate it.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for having me, guys. Bye.
Great having you.